Amen. Now, we've been talking about encouragement. We've been talking about the church, how we got to be a blessing to people and so many different things. And I want to go over to the book of, I guess I'm going to start in Luke's Gospel, chapter number, I think we're going to start in Luke's Gospel, chapter number 19. Luke's Gospel, chapter number 19. I'm in the NIV, in the New International Version of the Bible. And when you have it, when you look at the screen, say amen. Okay. Had to, folks don't carry Bibles no more. I'm still working on some stuff. Even the deacons try to be cool. Lord have mercy. Try. Okay. Look what he says in verse number 19. Look what he says in verse 5. He says, and Jesus reached the spot. They still got that club called the spot. Lord have mercy. Prayer meeting after church on the altar. It says, and Jesus reached the spot, and he looked up, and it said, Zacchaeus, come down. Get down here, young man. He says, I must stay at your house tonight. I'm coming to your crib. Now, if the pastor showed up, I'm meeting at y'all house tonight. Now, how many of you would have an attitude? I need to stop the sermon right here. I just show up and say, I'm staying over there tonight. He ain't even asked. I think I'm going to start doing that. I can see myself, because some of y'all cook good on Sunday. Y'all think I'm lying. I'm just going over there to Sister High. Rich, I don't know how to bring me back something to eat. I'm for real. Going over there, I would say Deke, but you might, okay. But I'm going to have me all kind of plates. Y'all know I don't eat everybody's food, but I eat some of y'all food. Come on over here. Bring it on back. I think I might do that today. Trying to see what I want. Okay, right. Okay. Oh, I got this. I'm going to have some on Monday, Tuesday. I just going. He says, and he came down at once, and he said, welcome. He said, and welcome him gladly. Look what he says in verse 7. And all the people saw this and began to mutter, and he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. Verse number 8 says, but Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give. He said, here and now I will give half of my possession to the poor. If I have cheated anyone out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Verse number 9 said, and Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house because this man too is a son of Abraham. Verse number 10, he said, but the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. I want you to touch your neighbor, and I call this holy harassment. Holy harassment. I come to church, I got to touch. That's right, it's harassment. But it's a holy harassment. Tell your neighbor this and touch him and tell him this. Say, he took a risk on me. He took a risk. Tell another neighbor, say, he took a real risk on me. He took a real risk. Now, when you start looking at this, I need you to draw and look at what's going on. Zacchaeus is a tax collector. Y'all know we don't like the I, the R, and the S. Come on, okay, y'all. For the 2 of you who cheated on your income tax form before. Just 2 of y'all, ain't but 2 people in the building that ever cheated. And you got a notice, and they say something like, I need you to provide these documents. And you know you don't have those documents. And so you had the audacity to call the people and say, I really ain't got that. Can I work something out? And they say, no. We're going to take half of your check, or we're going to take all your income tax for the next couple of years. Think about it now. Now, so that's the reason why people did not like Zacchaeus, because he really had a checkered past. And God is saying to you is that God says, and I know God is omniscient, so he's not technically taking a risk because he knows everything, but for the sake of the message, he took a risk on you and me. Are you hearing me? In spite of what everybody thought, in spite of what everybody said, he still took a risk. Look what he says right here. In verse number 5, it says that when Jesus had reached the spot, I like that part, the spot. When he reached where you was at, I like that part. Because think about where you was at. Ask your neighbor, where the spot at? Tell him again, say, where the spot at? See, some of you, he met you in bad spots. Some of you, he met you in crazy spots. Some of you, he met you in some spots we don't want to talk about. But he met you at the spot. Now, notice right here, he meets Zacchaeus at a spot. Here it is, God can meet anybody at a spot. Tell your neighbor, say, he meet you at the spot. Tell him again, say, he meet you at the spot. My question was, what was the spot for you? Huh? Was it at Trudy's house? Trudy. Or Trudy. Which one was it? Who? Or was it at Craig's or John's house? He met you at the spot. Where was the spot? Was the spot somewhere you shouldn't have been? So Jesus reached up and he saw Zacchaeus at the spot. And the Bible said, he said, come on down here, boy. Right now, he said, get on down here. I like this part because this bespeaks of how I grew up. Sean Parker just made one call. Now I know y'all won't be able to, some of y'all, younger ones, 2000, and some United babies, you won't be able to handle what it's about, what I'm talking about now. When Sean Parker made one call, he said, hey, you didn't say, huh? You didn't say, what you want? Y'all ain't saying that. You came and said, hey, what's up? What's going on? And then you act like you liked it. hey, you need, see, some of y'all don't know, you're just smacking your lips, sucking your teeth. See, that was tolerated. See that if we had to do some stuff like that, we were like, how did I get on the floor? How did I get down there? See, it'd have been y'all call it child abuse. See, sure, when he called you, that was just it. And you didn't say, huh? What? That just wasn't tolerated. You had to show up. And you had to show up and act as if you liked it. See, I know that's a little harsh for some of y'all because it's just too. See, now you get, it's a new school. Folk do what y'all do what y'all children do they want to do. I'm your friend. I'm your pastor, but I'm your friend. And all right, I'll be down there in a minute. Give me a minute. I ain't coming right now. What? See, that's new school. So I don't understand stuff like that. But anyway, the Bible says Zacchaeus came down at once. Look what the Bible said. He says, and Jesus said, he says, Zacchaeus, I'm going to stay at your house. And he said, come down immediately. He says, I'm going to stay at your house. And he came down at once and was glad. He was excited about it. Why? Because Jesus was staying at his house. I like that part. I need to know, is Jesus staying at your house? Does he have a bedroom? Does he have a place in your house? Hear this. You know, God convicted me one time. I remember when I was living in my double wide, when I was living in my house, and I remember how I used to go meet God at the same spot every day. But sometimes we get bigger houses, we get bigger stuff, but you can't even let God meet you at the, you don't have a spot in your house for God. Ask your neighbor, say, where's the spot for God in your house? That's right, you got all the spots. You got your kids' room. You got you a room. You got you a workout room. But where is God's spot in your house? Come on, think about it. Everybody got a room. Everybody got something. You got a place that you like to hang out. I got the red room in my house. I painted it red. I got spots, and that's where I work out. That's where I meditate. But the question is, what spot do you have in your house for Jesus? Have you made, okay, some of you watch War Room, and so you created your prayer room. I like that. At least you did do it, even though it didn't last for 30 days, but you did do it. You put you something in your closet and you was praying in there. And all of a sudden, my question is, what have you decided to build God a whole room on your house? I like that part because you got to have a spot where you can meet God. Well, I can meet him anywhere, but come on now. I know you can meet him anywhere. Don't try to mess with me theologically because I know you can meet him anywhere. But the question is, have you designated him a place for him? Say, God, man, you're going to hook up here. God, man, you're going to hook up in the closet. God, man, you're going to hook up here. The question is, have you created a spot for God, or do he sleep on the couch? Or do you get him a rollaway? No, better yet, a blow-up mattress, which means he is temporarily there. God said, I want a permanent spot. God said, I want a red room like you got one. God said, I want a special spot. God said, I want a kitchen like you got one. God said, I want all that furniture. God said, I want that same stuff, and I want you to meet me there every day. Y'all, I'm not just talking philosophically, but I'm talking actually. Amen. So Zacchaeus comes, and Jesus says, he said, I'm going to hang out at your house. And I like this part because it says something about Jesus. Jesus was not bashful. Jesus wanted to go and hang out. I like that because I'm going to probably do some of that later. I'm going to come on and say, hey, what you cooking? And don't be asking my wife with them, what you cooking, girl? I like fried chicken too. Matter of fact, put some gravy on the rice and some biscuits and some green beans and some of that lemonade and put some sweet tea in there. That's how I want it. Well, you ain't Jesus. I ain't trying to, but I'm acting just like Jesus. The Bible said we can. So I'm throwing that in there. Throw that out there. And so the Bible says, in verse number 7, says, all the people saw this and they began to mutter. They began to mutter, and he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. You know what muttering is? You know what muttering is? Muttering is, I'm talking underneath my breath. The breath on point right now. I'm talking about something. I'm talking, slide over, I'm talking behind her back. She no good and well. She ain't all that. No way. I'm telling you, I ain't got time for that. All of a sudden, but I can't say it. Ooh, I can't say it. The Bible said everybody was muttering. They was muttering. Why? Because they saw that he was going to be the guest of a sinner. He ain't got no business. He ain't got no business. I like Jesus because Jesus had a way of provoking those of his day. Notice the Bible said that he went over there and he said this. He said, I'm coming to hang out at your house. Why? Well, Pastor, you want me to get out of this? God was willing to take a risk. In order for you to be an effective evangelist, in order for you to be an effective Christian, in order for you to be an effective woman or man of God, you have to be willing to take risk. Ask your neighbor, say, will you take a risk?
Will you take a risk?
Hear this now. A risk is something where you have assets and you have liabilities. Well, risk is something that is a point where, let me read the definitions. Let me give it to you right fast so you have it for your notes and you can regurgitate and get back. It's someone or something that creates a suggested hazard. A person or thing that is specifically specified as a hazard. See, Zacchaeus was hazardous to Jesus' ministry. Kind of like some of y'all was to my ministry. I know some of us think we were always assets. Say amen, say amen, say amen. Say amen. Because what we think is, by God, I've always been a great person. I asked a girl the other night, we was having this conversation, she was real deep, and Val was out there, and I asked her, I said, I mean, if you come to the church, and she was like out there. She talking about the universe kind of stuff. She talking about like just really like out there about stuff. I said, well, what do I got to gain? And she was like, you'll get a bond member. And then what she said? I said, bond member. What happens is we think we already an asset. Therefore, we don't see ourselves as a liability. Let me tell you what I see. If you go in there, there's some of us, how crazy we act. We run the risk of cussing folks out. Oh, go there to that word church. Told you. Where you go to church at? I told you they ain't saved over there. I told you. Look at that. Oh, there it go again. I told you. Look at the children crazy. Look at that girl twerking and all that. I'm just saying. I told you. That's what kind of person Zacchaeus was in Jesus' ministry. Jesus took him in at a risk. He took a risk at him. The problem is some of us don't see ourselves as a liability. We see ourselves as an asset, but I got news for you. Sometimes you got to have an asset manager. You got to have a person that can go in and diagnose your spiritual portfolio and let you see that maybe you was a liability. Are you hearing me? You was good, but guess what? You'll cuss somebody out at a drop of a dime. You was good, but you got more attitude than a little bit. You was good, but you didn't want nobody to say you was a liability. You'll go ham on somebody in a minute. Y'all, they say, you get in my face if you want. I will cuss. I will fight you at church. Huh? What you mean? Huh? Huh? Hey, what's up? What's up? You want some of this? What's up? We'll fight at church. You always saying that. That's a liability. You know how many people I had in church like that? Some of y'all crazy than a bed bull. I mean crazy. You will go off, you will go ham, you will cut somebody. Peter was like that. Peter will cut somebody. He was a liability to Jesus' ministry. Only thing y'all saw was a nice little fisherman. Oh, look at Peter. Look at Peter. He's a nice fisherman. Because guess what? When Jesus called him, we don't know Peter's background. We ain't able to run a criminal history on Peter. We just think that Peter is just cool. But you didn't know Peter had that much of thug in him. You didn't know Peter didn't take no mess off nobody. You didn't know Peter would go. You didn't know Peter when Peter was out there fishing and he had the fishermen there. Didn't I tell y'all? This is a whole hypothesis. This is what I think. This is what I think now. This is what I think. Not the Bible, but me. You didn't know that when Peter was fishing out there with his men, he was cussing every one of them out. Get that fish up off the ground. Boy, I will send you out here so fast, you'll be having roller skates on. You didn't know Peter was talking to folk like that on the job. He was a liability. He wasn't an asset. He was a liability. But I like Jesus. He looked at him and said, though they can't see what I see. He says, upon this rock. He said, you're hard, but I can build something off a rock. He said, you got an issue, but I can build something off of that. You got an attitude, girl, but I can do something with that. You'll cut somebody, but I can use that in the ministry. See what Jesus did? Jesus looked at, hear this now, he was willing to take a risk. Kind of give you more perspective, don't it? Because see, what we think is we always are assets. When we didn't understand, we was liabilities. And if you start thinking to yourself, I've always been an asset, you won't see what could have happened in that way. I knew I was a liability, but God took a risk on me. There's some stuff that people, they didn't want to see Zacchaeus, the best of Zacchaeus, but the Bible said they start muttering. They said, what is up with Jesus? If he was such a man of God, you know how many times I've heard that? If he was such a preacher, what is he doing? Do he know what don't he know she doing this? Don't he know she like this? Don't he know what they used to do? Don't he know? I don't care. Well, you should care. No, I don't care. Why? Because anybody can change. I should have got 12 amens on that. I got 3 amens on that time. I told you, the problem is some of us think we're better than what we really was, and that's your problem. Because your mama and your daddy told you that you was a good child. They were lying. Lying to you. Hear what he says. Look, let's go back to the text. I got to get out of here. Look what he says. The Bible said they start muttering. They said he's going to be a guest of a sinner. Verse 8 says, and Zacchaeus stood up. I like that part. He stood up and said, look, Lord. He said, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possession to the poor. If I have cheated anyone out of anything, I will pay it back 4 times. If I stole anything, y'all know better than that. Come on. Somebody, you can just find $20 on the floor and you put it in your pocket. And then you know nobody don't know about it. And somebody say, hey, I dropped some money in my pocket. I dropped a 20. I dropped a 20. And you'll say, I know it was his. I bet they can't give me the serial numbers off of it. What do you mean? We'll say stuff like that. Why? Because we know we don't want to get nothing back. Here this, the Bible said this. Zacchaeus said, if I got anything, I will give it back 4 times. You know Jesus had been working on that. And the Bible said this. The Bible said that he said, I'll give it back 4 times. And look what the Bible said this. And Jesus said, I like this part. And I wrote this in my note. If you're going to take a risk on me, then I can take a risk on you. Amen. Y'all, I love this. If you're going to take a risk on me, I'm going to take a risk on you. I told people, I don't let nobody, y'all ain't saying it. That's why I take risks on folk. Because when you taking a risk on people, don't nobody want what I got majority of the time until I fix it up.
All right.
Some of y'all, I fix y'all up. Get no help. You were jacked up. Let's go ahead and talk about this. I was jacked up, but you jacked up too. I mean, you broke. Let me go this side. You won't pay your bills. You won't pay nobody. You went on past people, but you won't pay nobody. You passed. You jacked up. I mean, cuss folks out. I mean, you would just, boy, you would just go off. Now you fixed up. You look like something. Be careful when people don't want what you got when it messed up.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, from the gospel of Mike Jones then. They didn't want you, but now you're hot. When you now that you got the anointing, you look good. You know you're really not that handsome like that. But the point is this. Jesus was willing to take a risk on Zacchaeus even when he didn't look like what everybody wanted him to look like. He was a messed up. He was a tax collector. He was considered the most despicable man ever it was, because most tax collectors, they not only will charge you tax for Caesar, but they'll give them a little something too. Oh, you owe $50 to Caesar. You pay me $75. I give Caesar 50 and I'm going to take 25 for myself. Amen. It's just like when I went to Lagos, Nigeria, get what happened? You got to pay over there. Everybody got to get paid. Police got to be. You openly bribe people. Army, everybody got to get bribed. That's the way of life. You can't go in the airport unless you pay. I was so glad to get out of that country. Y'all not hear me. Dude's about make me feel good. Make you feel what? But if he hadn't had the AK-47 sitting there, I had to dance to the music. See, some of y'all with eye hard, man, they ain't paying you nothing. Go over there if you want to. I guarantee you, you're going to humble down. Go over there if you want to and act like you just going to show up over there. I can guarantee you. We was watching a little program on TV about Lagos. I know exactly. Dudes in the street taking money from taxi cab, people taking money. I know it's AK-47. And you over there with the attitude you want to, you might go missing. I can promise you that. You're going to pay. The point I'm making is this, is that that's how Zacchaeus was looked at. He was despised because people were looking at, he was taking money underneath the table. And look what the Bible said this. Look what Jesus did. Jesus was willing to take the risk of him looking bad in his ministry. I like that part. You got to be willing to take a risk of it looking bad on you. I understand they don't look like what they're supposed to look like, but God said take a risk. Tell your neighbor, say take a risk. Tell them again, say take a risk. Hear this right here, what he says. He said, and Zacchaeus stood up and said, Lord, I'm going to give back whatever I took for a time. Verse 9 says, and Jesus said, today salvation has come to this house. And because this man too is a son of Abraham. If you was here Wednesday night, we read the same thing about that woman that was bent over for 18 years. She was a daughter of Abraham. What do you need me to see out of this, Pastor? That Jesus saw something different than everybody else sees. How can me and you be around the same people, but you don't see nothing? Only thing you see is the crackhead, but I see somebody who can do better. Only thing you see is the dope dealer, but I see somebody who can run a business. The only thing you're seeing the wrong things. God says, I want you to see something good. Or you tell your neighbor, say, see something good. See, that's what God is calling you to do. He said this guy is still a son of Abraham. She got an attitude, but she still can do something better. He got an attitude, but he still can do something better. That's something that God sees that nobody else sees. You telling me, Pastor, why couldn't everybody else see that Zacchaeus had some good in him? Because they didn't have on spiritual eyes. Do I got some cool people that got shades in the building? Do I got a pair of shades in the building? Who got some shades? Because I know somebody got some shades. Who got some shades? Who got some shades? Who got some shades? Not blue blockers, but shades. Not blue blockers, but shades. Okay. Who these? These yours? Oh, I'm going to love this. Give me this, girl. Oh, they prescription. Ooh, wee. Yeah, let me get these. Thank you. I want to be able to see after service. Who do you dig right now? can't tell y'all what I said. It was bad. I need another. I'll make them do what they do, D. Okay. When I look at you, I see you in the shade. I don't see the original you. I see you with some tint on you. I see you with all your imperfections. I see you with some black and darkness on you. I see you. I don't see you that clear because these are the lenses. You know, Paul talks about he had scales on his eyes. He had things covering his sight. I'm here to tell you, if you're going to be an effective person, you're going to have to take the scales, the shades off your eyes. I thank God. What you mean? There's some good in people. They got some issue, but there's some stuff that God says, he says, I need you to take it. See what Jesus did. Jesus could see that Zacchaeus was a son of Abraham. Jesus could see the woman bent over for 18 years was a daughter of Abraham. What you see is the attitude, but I see tenacity. What you see is the person that's doing wrong, but I see the next level. I see somebody who cares. The person that you say, they ain't got no lawyers, they just lawyer in the street. I like them that been lawyer in the street because get what? They know how to be lawyer in the kingdom. So the only thing you got to do is take that stuff off, dust them off a little bit, make it look like new, put some armor all on it. Y'all ain't saying that. Put some shoe polish on it, shine them up a little bit, they'll be just like brand new. But if you're not willing to take the risk, how can you have great reward? How can you, if you're not willing to restore? Y'all know that most of the time I buy houses, right? And I buy houses that are messed up. I buy houses that are basically just don't look good. But I buy them because with the intentions on, I can see something that everybody else can't see. There's some stuff God says, girl, I've been trying to get you to see some stuff, but you can't see. He destined. She got buckshots all back there. But guess what? If you just get a straightening comb, a perm, the little edges right around there. If you put him on and take him down to the foot place, the Chinese or the Korean people, and y'all ain't saying that, and let them work on them nasty, crusty feet, I promise you he'll be a little bit better. She will be a little bit, I promise you, if you take him and let them put something in there and put some dye on it, whatever, put a little straightening on, to put some weaving, I promise you'll have something. What do you mean, Pastor? I need you to see the best in people. Jesus, when he looked at Zacchaeus, he saw something that nobody else could see. He saw something. Well, Pastor, why are you teaching this? Because in order for you to be an effective witness, you got to be able to see the best in people. And you also got to be willing to harbor, or you got to be willing to understand that whenever you do it, you're going to have criticism. Look what the text says. Thank you. Don't lose his shades because he's not getting them back. Look what he says. And the Bible said this. He says, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. So if I can't see the best, if I'm not willing to take the risk, I can't save that which I need to be saved, that which need to be saved. So in order for you to be effective, you got to be able to see stuff that nobody else can see. Amen? Now go to 1 Samuel 16:7. I got a couple of scriptures, and I'm going to take you home for a second. Tell your neighbor, say neighbor. Tell your neighbor, say neighbor. He's took a risk on me. Look at this. Put it up there. 1 Samuel 16:7. Put it up there. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider the appearance of his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. It said people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. God looks at the heart. Stop looking at the outside. The outside will fool you. The outside will look dressed up. The outside will get you. Some of you got messed up because you bought a clown. And he was dressed like a king. A clown don't king and a king don't clown. Let me say it again. A clown don't king and a king don't clown. So stop buying clowns when you could have your king. All right. Now, go to 1 Corinthians chapter number 1 Corinthians 15. That's right. I'm going to let you get to your KFC. Now, And this is what kind of shifted me in the thinking right here. When I read this, I became almost delirious because it lifted something. I'm going to try to cut fast. Look what he says in verse 4. Paul says that he was buried. You know, the church in Corinth was almost like our church. It would shake some. Church in Corinth, it was a cool church, but it had a lot of stuff in it. Paul leave them for a minute, they come back, he doing something crazy. And Corinth was that type of church. It was a church that was on the move, but it had a whole lot of issues on the inside of it. And so sometimes Paul had to go back. That's why you saw 1 Corinthians and the 2 Corinthians, because the first message didn't take. Do you realize sometimes you got to give a person the message over again? You know, you can hear it one time, it don't really stick. That's why I preach in series. Want to move? No, I can't move on because you didn't get it the first time. So Paul had to go back and preach the same thing. Look what he says right here. He says right here, he says, and that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the scripture. Verse number 5. And he appeared to Cephas, then the 12. And he also, he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters at the same time, most of whom are still living, and those who have fallen asleep. Verse number 7. And then he appeared to James, then also to the apostles. Verse 8 said, and last, and let's say last. Say it again, say last. And last of all, he appeared to me. He appeared to a murderer. He appeared to a criticizer. He appeared to a critic. He appeared to me also, and as to one abnormally born. I didn't come up through the ranks. I wasn't one of the 12. I wasn't one of the 12 disciples. I never walked with Jesus. He knocked me down on the Damascus highway off a horse. I was on my high horse, but he knocked me off my high horse. Here, that's not what he said. He said, verse number 9 says, for I am the least of the apostles and do not even deserve to be called an apostle. He said, I'm the least of. Matter of fact, I was at the back of the line, and all of a sudden now, he said, I don't even deserve to be called an apostle because of what I used to do. It is just because a person used to do something wrong don't mean God can't still use them in this next season. Just because a person, I ain't preaching to cute folks this morning. I'm preaching to folks who've been through some hell, who've been through some situation. That's who I'm preaching to right now. That's who I'm preaching to. Tell your neighbor, say, neighbor, he preaching to me. Tell him again, say, he preaching to me. Here it is. He says right here, he says, and I'm the least of the apostles. He said, not even deserve to be called an apostle. The problem is, I told you, I'm so sick of folks. Some people think they deserve what they got. I'm telling you, we've been spoiled rotten, and we think we actually deserve this. Y'all think I try to be real self-deprecating, big word, but I'm really not. I know I don't deserve it. The problem is some of us been sitting in our shrines too long. Some of us been sitting on our high horse because somebody told you, you did this right, you did that. I'm here to tell you, I'm here to break you all the way down. If it had not been for the grace of God, you would not be halfway where you are right now. You was a liar, you was a cheater, you was a whoremonger, you was a hoe. Let me go over this side. Whatever you want to call it, that's what you was. But God stepped in with all his grace, with all his mercy, and got you out of your mess. Tell your neighbor, say, he took a risk on me. See this, I'm always amazed how we can't take no risks on nobody. But we wanted God to take risks on us. I told you, we thought we was assets. You valuable to have me. You got to understand God. You could have made God ministry look bad like that. But God said, I'm going to look past all your faults. Yeah. Go back to the word. We almost finished. I'm winding out. Look what he said. He said, I don't even deserve to be called an apostle because of what I did in my past. He said, but by the great, verse 10 will make me shout, adjust your track, glue it down a little bit. It'll make you go crazy. Y'all not hearing me. Verse 10 will make me shout because he said, but by the grace. That's enough to shout about right there. That means if it had not been for God's grace and mercy, you'd have been locked up, locked down. You'd have been in jail. You'd have been incarcerated. You'd have been behind four walls. You'd have had AIDS, HIV, and herpes mixed together. But God, because of his grace, hear this. He said, but by the grace of God. I like this. Hear this now. Hear this. God took a risk on you. I like this. He said, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. I don't even deserve it. I know I don't deserve to be preaching the gospel. Matter of fact, I probably shouldn't even grace nobody's pulpit. I remember when I first got to be a pastor. When I first got to be a pastor, I remember I tried to do the pastoral stuff. I remember we used to have funerals, and they called all the preachers up. They and the ministers in the house. They in the minister's house. And I was at the back, and I would raise my hand and say, that's me, that's me. And then all of a sudden, they say, oh, all right, we ain't got enough seats for you. And all of a sudden, I would go and hit us. Sometimes, God said, I'll let you not be chosen on purpose. God says, I'll let you go through hell. Because when you go through hell, you'll know how not to treat somebody. God said, I'll let you be turned out. He said, I'll let you know how not to do what they did to you. Paul said, put it up there for me. Paul says, he said, by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace to me was not without effect. Stop right here. I want to preach this last little point and not teach it. I want to preach it. What you mean, Pastor? I need you to understand. God says, Paul says, I won't let God giving me grace be in vain. You're not hearing me. He said, God spared me for a reason. Now, you can walk over to grace and act like you deserve it because your mama or your daddy told you that you was good. You can do all of that and everybody can exalt you. But Paul says, I won't let the grace of God be without effect. He says, I won't let it be something else. He said, I will use it to the fullest. I will not let it just be something that goes over my head. He said, I understand. I got to make something out of this. He said, God gave me grace, and I won't let it be without effect. Because how can God deliver you out of a car wreck and he gets absolutely nothing out of it? How can God deliver you from a sickness but he gets absolutely nothing out of it? How can God let you not go to jail and he gets absolutely nothing out of it? How can God let you not get fired but he gets absolutely nothing out of it? How can God do all that stuff and he get absolutely nothing out of it? God says, Paul said, he said, by the grace of God, I am what I am. He said, I won't let it go unpunished. Y'all, I was thinking this, and I could have been in New York last night chilling out with Michael Strahan and Tequila and all them guys. I already had my tickets and all that stuff. I could have been in New York. Hit us now. I could have been sitting up there in New York City chilling, and y'all going to preach, and I handle this. Y'all handle this down here. I'm gone. I got to do what I do. And I bring that up for a reason. Well, he's just bragging. Yeah, right. Call it bragging, whatever you want to call it. But I didn't go because I didn't want the grace to be without effect. I'm not ignorant enough to know that God can't move in New York. I'm not ignorant enough to know God can't move, but that ain't what I'm talking about. It's about the grace. I do what I do because God thought enough of me to give me grace that I didn't deserve. He thought enough of me to stay here, and y'all not hearing me. God thought enough of me to make me who I am, and he says this, hear this now, and Paul says, without effect. He says, I ain't going to let this grace go unchecked. I ain't going to let this grace be for nothing. I ain't going to let God do it. How can God get you out of something and then you do absolutely nothing with it? How can God, you told God, how can God heal your body, but then you do absolutely nothing? How can God do that and then you just, the grace of God be without effect? Paul said, I can't let it be without effect. Think about it. Put it up there for me. You need to read this. He says, and his grace to me was not without effect. He says, no, I work harder than all of them, yet not I. He said, I work harder than all of them. See, Paul, you don't say nothing. But I'm going to go to tell you, some of us, we just grinding out. I work harder than all of them. That's some stuff that God says, he says, I've anointed you to work harder. Paul said, I work harder than them all. Why is Paul working so hard? Because of grace. Because deep down inside, Paul knew he did not deserve to be in the family of God. That's why, although Paul was a Jew, hear this, although he was an apostle, but he chose rather, hear this now, he chose rather to become an apostle to the Gentiles. You're not hearing me. He was educated better than Peter. He was educated better than Peter. He had more credentials than Peter. Matter of fact, Jewish people, Gentile, pagan people, people who were under the curse and all that, but Paul chose rather to use his skill that he learned in the world. outside of the covenant of God, outside of the faith of God. He chose rather to use for God's kingdom. Do you hear what I just said? Why? Paul says, I labor more than them all. Why? Because here Jesus said this. He says, when we read the parable of the woman that washed his feet with an alabaster jar. He says, who do you think deserved the most? If a person forgive a lot or little, he said the person that forgives a lot. The person who's forgiven a lot. That's what Paul was saying. That's why I say some of us, you got to be honest with yourself. I run as hard as I run because of the stuff I used to do and who I used to be. Some of you, your problem is you're stuck up on you, or neither you don't care. But for the few of us that know we really don't deserve it, oh, you better hear this. Drink more liquor than a little bit. Ain't that right? Drink more liquor than a little bit. Smoke out more than anybody. Do more than stuff. Do cuss about people. Talk about people. But God said, he said, and that's the reason why Paul was running so hard. Because of God took a risk on him. God took a risk on him. God took a risk on you, me, all of us. Why can't we take a risk on somebody else? That's what the message is to you and me. It's twofold objective in his message. For you to see yourself as the one that God took a risk on, and also for you to take a risk on somebody. It's twofold. So when you walk away from this place today, be willing to take a risk on somebody. And when you walk away from this place today, be willing to shout, because God gave you something that you didn't deserve. He allowed you to be in a place. And that's what God is doing in your life. In Jesus' name. Come on, stand to your feet.